St. Anne's Church. Myths and reality.
Vilnius tour guides tell their guests about the legend of St. Anne's Church, how Napoleon wanted to take it with him to Paris. But did you know that this myth was first spread by one of his own colleagues, a tour guide in the mid-19th century? His name was Adam Kirchhoff, and he wrote the Guide to Vilnius, in which he quotes Napoleon Bonaparte. "I'm going to carry this church back to Paris with me in the palm of my hand," the great French ruler was reported to have said during his stay in Vilnius. But the only thing true about that story is that Napoleon visited Vilnius. God mattered about as much to him as the French Revolution did to the average Lithuanian peasant. And remember that France was the birthplace of Gothic architecture, so even if it were technically possible to move a Gothic building from Lithuania, it would be about as useful as bringing sugar to Cuba. Napoleon's soldiers also didn't think much of St. Anne's Church. They set up a warehouse inside, banged up its brick altars, and tossed the wooden church benches and confessionals into their fires to keep warm. The second myth about the church has to do with Vytautas the Great. It was a legend created by the 19th century Lithuanian historian and romanticist Theodor Narbut. Narbut claimed that the church had been built by a master craftsman of the German Teutonic Order at the invitation of Vytautas' wife, whose name was Ona, Lithuanian for Anne. Basically, Narbut extended the life of the church by a full century. It was actually constructed toward the very end of the 15th century. The third legend would make a good plot for a movie. You'd need two actors to play two masons, but not those simpletons who stack bricks on top of each other, but the elite ones who created churches out of stone. One mason would be old and conservative, and the other young and innovative. There'd be all sorts of camera shots, piles of red bricks, wooden scaffolding, workers mixing mortar, a wagon rattling along carrying packs, an old master craftsman building the church wall. 2 years pass. The church is nearly complete. The young mason returns from his studies abroad. He doesn't like the church. What he'd like to say is "Nevaja," but no one talked like that back then. The two masons converse. "You're old school," says the younger man. "And you're an idiot," says the elder, before leaving for the countryside in anger. Then the younger mason rebuilds the church until it is light and graceful. Then there's the opening ceremony and a banquet. The camera finds the old mason in the crowd. His face says, "I am terribly jealous." But after drinking some wine, he makes peace with his younger colleague. That night, both men climb to the very top of the scaffolding. The moon is radiant. The old master is struck with jealousy, and he pushes the younger man off the scaffold. The final scene. The young mason lies there, dead. His fiancée, Mary, stands next to his body. Obviously, fake blood trickles along the cobblestone. After watching the movie, audiences would have at least 3 questions. What was Mary doing by the church at night? Why didn't anyone take down the scaffolding before the opening ceremony? And why were there 2 masons climbing on them at night? To be honest, there might be a grain of truth in this entire story. In the church walls, there actually are 2 bricks with mysterious markings. Some believe these to be the autographs of the church's master mason and his apprentice.